As the mist rose from the cursed river, its dark waters reflected a past steeped in sorrow and fear, whispering tales of the lost souls who ventured too close. Our journey began innocently enough, with a sense of adventure and camaraderie among friends. Little did we know, our camping trip would plunge us into a nightmare that would forever scar our souls. The late autumn air was crisp and cool as we set up our campsite near the riverbank, the dense forest surrounding us like a living, breathing entity. The nights were growing longer, casting an eerie gloom over the landscape. We were a group of 6: Jack, Lisa, Mike, Sarah, Tom, and myself, Emily. Our spirits were high, oblivious to the malevolent force lurking beneath the water's surface. The river's reputation preceded it. Locals spoke in hushed tones about strange disappearances and an unsettling stillness that pervaded the area. We laughed off their warnings, attributing them to superstition and old wives' tales. We were young and fearless, or so we thought. Our first night was uneventful, filled with laughter and ghost stories around the campfire. As the embers died down, a heavy silence settled over the camp. The river's gentle flow became a haunting lullaby, lulling us into a false sense of security. We retreated to our tents, unaware of the darkness that awaited us. The next morning, we explored the area, discovering an abandoned cabin near the riverbank. Its decaying structure stood as a silent testament to a forgotten past. Inside, we found remnants of a life long gone, dusty furniture, tattered books, and old photographs. One picture in particular caught our attention. It showed a family standing proudly by the river, their faces frozen in time. As we examined the photo, a chill ran down my spine. The eyes of the family seemed to follow us, their expressions a mix of joy and sorrow. We decided to leave the cabin, but the image lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder of the lives once touched by the river's curse. That evening, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with an oppressive stillness. We gathered around the campfire again, but this time our laughter was forced, and our stories took on a darker tone. Jack, always the skeptic, suggested we investigate the river's history further, hoping to debunk the myths. We ventured to the old crumbling bridge that spanned the river. Its once sturdy structure now lay in ruins, a relic of a bygone era. As we crossed, the wood creaked ominously beneath our feet. Halfway across, Lisa froze, staring into the water below. She claimed she saw something moving, a shadow lurking just beneath the surface. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, we continued on, but an unease settled over us. We found a hidden cave beneath a waterfall, its entrance concealed by overgrown vegetation. Inside, the air was damp and cold, the walls adorned with strange markings. It felt as though the cave itself was alive, watching us with unseen eyes. We uncovered more tales of the river's dark past stories, of vengeful spirits, mysterious drownings, and a curse that seemed to plague anyone who dared to venture too close. The more we learned, the more our skepticism waned. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, painting a picture of unimaginable horror. That night, as we sat around the campfire, the tension was palpable. The river's once gentle flow now sounded like a sinister whisper, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked nearby. We decided to stay close to the fire, its warmth and light providing a fragile sense of security. In the early hours of the morning, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. We scrambled out of our tents, our hearts pounding in our chests. Sarah was missing. Her tent was empty, her belongings scattered. Panic set in as we searched the surrounding area, calling out her name, but there was no response. Our flashlights flickered as we moved towards the river, its dark waters glistening ominously. We found Sarah's footprints leading to the water's edge, but there was no sign of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Fear gripped us as we realized the river had claimed its first victim. Desperation and terror took hold as we debated our next move. Jack insisted we leave immediately, but Mike argued we couldn't abandon Sarah. Torn between loyalty and self-preservation, we decided to search the area once more, hoping against hope that we would find her. As dawn broke, our search proved fruitless. Exhausted and defeated, we returned to the campsite. The reality of our situation was sinking in. The river's curse was real, and we were its latest victims. The once peaceful setting now felt like a prison, with the oppressive atmosphere closing in around us. Over the next few days, strange occurrences escalated. We heard whispers in the wind, saw shadows moving in the corners of our vision, and felt an unseen presence watching us. Each night, the campfire offered little comfort as we huddled together, our nerves frayed and our spirits broken. One evening, as we sat in a tense silence, Tom revealed a disturbing discovery. He had found an old journal in the cabin, its pages filled with cryptic entries about the river's curse. The journal belonged to a man who had lost his family to the river many years ago. His final entry was a chilling warning. The river demands a sacrifice. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. We were living the nightmare described in those pages, and we knew we had to find a way to break the curse. But how? The journal offered no clues, only despair and hopelessness. Our options were dwindling, and time was running out. As the days passed, our group grew smaller. One by one, my friends disappeared, their fates sealed by the river's insatiable hunger. The bonds of friendship that once held us together were now frayed and broken. The forest seemed to close in around us, its trees whispering secrets we could not understand. Lisa was the next to go. We woke one morning to find her tent empty, her belongings untouched. Her absence left a void that could not be filled. The river's curse was claiming us, piece by piece, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. Jack, once the staunch skeptic, was now a broken man. The reality of the curse had shattered his disbelief, and he was consumed by guilt and fear. He blamed himself for leading us to this place, for not heeding the warnings. His torment was palpable, a reflection of our collective despair. One night, as we huddled around the dwindling fire, Mike suggested a desperate plan. He believed that if we offered a sacrifice to the river, we might appease the spirits and break the curse. It was a horrifying thought, but we were out of options. The river demanded a sacrifice, and we had to decide who would be the one to offer their life. The decision weighed heavily on us. No one volunteered, and the tension grew unbearable. We argued, pleaded, and wept, but no solution emerged. In the end, it was Jack who made the ultimate sacrifice. He walked to the river's edge, his eyes filled with resignation and sorrow. He turned to us one last time, a sad smile on his lips, before disappearing into the dark waters. His sacrifice did nothing to lift the curse. Instead, It seemed to strengthen the river's grip on us. We were trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and loss. The forest felt more oppressive, the air heavier, and the river's whispers grew louder, echoing in our minds. With only 3 of us left, we decided to make one final attempt to escape. We gathered our remaining supplies and set out at dawn, hoping to find a way out of the forest. But the river's influence was all-encompassing, and it seemed to twist the paths, leading us in circles. As night fell, we stumbled upon the old, crumbling bridge once more. It felt like a cruel joke, a reminder that there was no escape. Sarah and Tom were exhausted, their hope waning. We decided to rest, hoping that daylight would bring clarity and a way out. That night, I had a vivid dream. I saw the family from the photograph, their faces twisted in anguish. They reached out to me, their mouths moving silently, as if trying to convey a message. I woke with a start. The image burned into my mind. I knew then that we had to confront the river's curse head-on. In the morning, I shared my dream with Sarah and Tom. We decided to return to the hidden cave beneath the waterfall, hoping to find answers. The journey was treacherous, the forest seeming to resist our every step. When we finally reached the cave, we were met with an eerie silence. Inside, we found more markings on the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. At the center of the cave was a stone altar covered in dried blood. It was a place of sacrifice, a focal point for the river's curse. We realized then that the curse was bound to this place, and that breaking it would require an unimaginable act of courage. Tom, ever the brave soul, stepped forward. He placed his hand on the altar, and the cave seemed to come alive with a malevolent force. The symbols glowed, and the air grew thick with an oppressive presence. Tom spoke words I couldn't understand, a chant that seemed to resonate with the cave itself. As he continued, the cave shook, and the river's whispers turned into screams. The ground beneath us trembled, and I feared we would be swallowed whole. But Tom persisted, his voice steady and unwavering. The symbols on the walls began to fade, their power waning. With a final desperate cry, Tom collapsed. The cave fell silent, the oppressive force lifting. The air felt lighter, and the river's whispers ceased. We had broken the curse, but at a terrible cost. Tom's sacrifice had saved us, but it had also left us forever changed. Sarah and I carried Tom's body back to the campsite, our hearts heavy with grief. The forest no longer felt like a prison, but a place of mourning. The river's dark waters flowed gently, as if acknowledging the end of its reign of terror. We buried Tom near the abandoned cabin, his final resting place a reminder of his bravery. The family in the photograph seemed to smile down at us, their faces finally at peace. We knew we had done the right thing, but the pain of our losses would never truly fade. As we packed up our campsite, I couldn't help but feel a deep sadness. The forest, the river, and the cabin were all haunted by memories of those who had come before us. We were the latest chapter in a long history of sorrow and sacrifice, but we had survived. Leaving the cursed river behind, Sarah and I made our way back to civilization. The experience had changed us, forging a bond that would never be broken. We carried the memories of our friends with us, their faces and voices etched into our minds. The story of the cursed river would live on, a cautionary tale for those who might venture too close. We hoped that by sharing our experience, we could prevent others from suffering the same fate. The river's curse had been broken, but its legacy would endure. In the years that followed, Sarah and I stayed in touch, our friendship a testament to the strength we had found in each other. We never returned to the river, but its presence was always with us, a dark shadow in the corners of our minds. The memories of that fateful camping trip would never fade, but we had learned to live with them. We found solace in the knowledge that we had survived, and that we had broken the curse that had claimed so many before us. The river's dark waters no longer held power over us, but they would always be a part of our story. In the end, the river claimed yet another secret, its waters flowing ominously, as if savouring the terror it had wrought, leaving the survivors forever haunted by what they had witnessed. The cursed river, a place of sorrow and fear, would remain a dark chapter in our lives, a reminder of the thin line between life and death.